mucha comida. Me sorprende que yo no me I know your kids like I know them because I know and this is I don't think we ever met. No, I always see you. Holidays, I know who you are. Until recently when I was in right. Everybody's okay? Yeah. It's so official.
And the other one too, but Friday mornings I go to Girl Scouts. Oh, and just charge it. Yeah, exactly. It's great. I come home.
I did once.
Nice to be New ones being made.
I'm trying to get I asked her to come and she was sort of you know what we see. Yes, I know very much. You know what? Maybe 2 years or so that and she said, I'm just going to lay low and make sure I don't get and then she told me yesterday that she tested positive. I knew that she doesn't apparently she doesn't feel great. I mean, just not bad. She's had a fever and like kind of
Yeah, we're live.
Okay. Shabbat Shalom. Hold on.
Hold on. Have some more.
Wrong pipe. I can never do anything easy. We're going to start on page 10. Hine Matov. But it's a funny one because I had to make my entrance back here funny. So you're going to have to do some big oi, oi, oi. Some of you know this one.
Laugh why it's so far.
Yeah. Alright, goes like this. Hine matov u'manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov u'manayim shevet achim gam. Try it again. Hine matov u'manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov u'manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov. Same melody but u'manayim. Now my favorite part. Oi, oi, oi. Shevet achim gam yachad. Shevet achim, oi achim gam yachad. Okay, so we have to just like get rid of all of our ois from the week. Has anyone ever heard of your ois and your joys? You have a lot of ois, okay. So like when we say oi, 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 like just get rid of Shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov u'manayim. Shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov. U'manayim. Here we go. Oi, oi, oi. Let me try that again. Robert and Eric didn't even do it. Okay. Let's try the ois again. parents because they're here. If you were my parents, I would call you up too. So I would like to call up Mark and Beverly to light the candles. Dr. Mark and Beverly once. We're on page 2 and 3 in the prayer book.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
So we began with some ois and some singing, some music. We brought the light of Shabbat into the space. Let's go now through our week. This is a very appropriate thing to do on this particular Shabbat because this week in the Torah portion, I'll be talking a lot more about this later, is a list of all the places that the Israelites went on their journeys through the desert. And I like to think of a Chazarat HaShavua, a review of the week, to kind of we're looking at all of our journeys that we've gone on through this past week. Sometimes these journeys can be incredibly wonderful. Sometimes they can be tragic. Sometimes it's a really hard week and we get to Friday and we're like, thank God we have the weekend. And other times we're like, oh, I wish this week hadn't ended. So let's bring ourselves to last Saturday evening, if you can remember what you did last Saturday evening. And bring yourself kind of through each week. Where'd you start? Where'd you go? What was your journey this week? And then bring yourself to today and what you did to prepare to be here in this space. And we'll try to clear ourselves out so that we can be open for the next 45 minutes of praying together. So let's take a moment now for Chazarat HaShavua, a review of our week. So now that we're fresh off the week, imagine we're wearing all white going out into the fields outside of Sfat and singing the song found on page 20, Lechadodi.
Cry.
page 28. You may be seated. We turn now to page 34 and 35. But as we do the Shema, the tradition is to close our eyes for the Shema. So if you know the words, if you'd like to begin to close your eyes now. I really feel like when we get to this point in our service, we've kind of been working our way up to this moment where we find our connection with everything. It's that moment in the service where we say, we can't explain everything. But everything that happens, everything we do, everything that happens to us, it is all a part of the fabric of the universe. And Shema just wants us to pay attention to that connection. So let us sing together. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. 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 Continue now with Micha Mocha found on page 40, that moment when we were free at the Sea of Reeds.
Who is like you, Adonai? Who is like you, Adonai? Say Beverly, go with me, come on now. Micha mocha bo'elim Adonai, Micha mocha nedar b'kodesh, nora tehilo, kol shefelet, nora tehilo, kol shefelet.
We continue now on page 44 with words from the book of Exodus. This really is a song that is sung just specifically for this day today. The idea that Shabbat keeps us together. Look, we're all here together on a Friday evening, and we're singing together, and we're praying together, and experiencing our lives. So let's thank Shabbat and go to page 44. Veshamru. That's like an exciting introduction.
This is my character Marsha Atia, but trying to sing it more. Veshamru v'nei
together and then sing just the first line. The first line says, may I have this strength to understand what's in my head, and for whatever is in my head and in my heart to come out in earnest. So let's rise together, and then you can go to page about 62. When you're done with prayers in the Siddur, prayers in your heart, be seated, and we'll continue on when we're all sitting. Sit down.
Adonai tzvatai tivta. Adonai tzvatai tivta. Ufi ami tehilatecha. Ufi
We're going to end the Amidah on page 253. Take time now to think about those people that we love that are in need of healing. So in the first half of the prayer, we'll ask for the strength to be for those people that need us. And then I have a list to read, and I'll come around and gather names from all of you. So if you could say out loud the names of your loved ones, then we'll gather those names, keep them in our hearts, and say the blessing on behalf of those names. Mishabir. Judy Fenton, Gerald Feinerman, Tanaz Foladi, Bruce Garfield, Shir Gaolan, Katie Hurley, Eric Innocenti, Marion Klieger, Bill Culligan, Leah Marisa, Batrivka Adina, Yaakov Ruven, Paul Liegi, Brian McMullen, Velvo Ben Meir, Sarah Moran, Monroe Peterson, Rob Porper, Howard Rosen, Lindy Sobel, Marvin Sobel, Mabuba Soleimani, Sapida Soleimani, Luis Soto, Yehudit Bat Nehama Umarchai, Halina Wachtel, Freddie Wolf, Andy Wood, Shala Zagi, Andrew Zieger, and Howard Zellico.
Judy Fenton and Judy Henning.
Shabbat Shalom. What I'm going to describe could have been in the late 60s. I imagine it was in the early 70s, and I'm sure my parents are watching online and they're going to get back to me and say you were totally wrong about that. But my parents went on some trips, and I especially remember when I think it was like 72. They went to Spain. And I don't know, maybe it was a month later, we found ourselves sitting in a room, a dark room, looking at a machine that was showing us pictures called a slide machine. Has anyone here ever watched a slide projector? How many people did not fall asleep during the slide presentation? Okay. Anyway. He would do things like, he'd show a picture and he'd say, my dad was an interior designer of commercial interiors. So he'd show it and he'd say, this is a storefront. And, oh, look at that storefront. This was a very narrow street and we found a cheese shop. This was a statue. Here's another storefront. Seriously, look at this awning. He had a lot of awning pictures. The Israelites didn't have cameras, so they couldn't take pictures. They couldn't show slideshows, but they certainly could write things down. And so we have in our Torah portion today an actual list of all the journeys and stops and starts and places that the Israelites went to on their 40 years in the desert. And here we are literally on the edge of the promised land. And they go through this list. We read this. This is how it's described. These were the marches of the Israelites, who started out from the land of Egypt, troop by troop, in the charge of Moses and Aaron. Moses recorded the starting points in their various marches as directed by Adonai. Their marches by starting points were as follows. And then it goes on to mention every single point that they stopped over the past 40 years. Why they did this can be open to interpretation, but it could also be Occam's razor. The easiest explanation is usually the best. They wanted to write it down so that future generations could know what they were up to and what they experienced, what battles they fought, or what bodies of water they went by, all the trials and tribulations that they went through on this adventure over 40 years. One way that the commentators look at this that I thought was kind of fascinating was that they would write down, especially all the places where terrible things happened, so that the Israelites were thought of as coming from the depths and arising and having incredible things happen to them after a journey from down below. Rabbi Tzadok HaKohen writes about how a sense of despair can lead to heights. Quote, at such a time of despair, and this is to explain why the Israelites have in this explanation places they went where horrible things happened to them. At such a time of despair, a person may engage in an examination of their deeds, and this may lead them to greater heights. And what is true for the individual is true for the community as a whole. This is what the verse teaches us. Now we're going to get into some, Hebrew stuff. And they departed from Rephidim, a place whose name, as the Talmud explains, implies that they had slackened. Rifu is slackened. So when they say Rephidim, they're on that first part of the word that says Rifu, which means they slackened in their observance of the commandments. Implies that they had slackened, Rifu in Hebrew, in their observance, and pitched in the wilderness of Sinai. And from there, they prepared for Sinai for the reading of the Torah. So it's the idea that, they came from this place where they weren't thinking at all about God's commandments. And then from that moment when they realized and examined their deeds, they were preparing themselves for receiving the Ten Commandments. So that out of this Rephidim comes Torah. So when you think of it this way, going over a trip or a journey can help us kind of examine our behavior. What did we do? If things went wrong, why did they go wrong? Was it something that we had done to make that happen? And it leads us into the future with the knowledge that we gained from that part of the journey. But Jewish tradition likes to get down deep into the weeds. And much of what our interpreters want us to take away from this section is that we need to experience pain and suffering in order to appreciate what happens next. And we need to experience what happens next without pain and suffering. Now, this has been a very long argument over many, 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 many years in our world. And I just want you to know, my personal view is that I don't have to experience something ugly or pain in to experience something good or joyous. That's my personal opinion, and we can argue about it afterwards if you'd like. But for right this moment, I want to kind of explain what they're telling us. This quote is from Nachman of Bratslav, who was the great Hasidic grandson of the Baal Shem Tov. He writes, "When I was a child, my mother would comb my hair to remove the knots." I used to do that for my kids. "Although this hurt a lot, I didn't cry or complain. Even at a very young age, I understood that everyone suffers. Why should I resist it? There are so many religions and philosophies and theologies that espouse the idea that suffering is a given, right? And that our lives, even at a very, and that our lives are dedicated towards relieving ourselves of this suffering. A lot of people think that way. Instead, I'd like to think about all of this idea of writing things down, of going through your journeys, of writing down the difficult things that have happened to you in your life, or finding some way to show those things. That it's all about just experiencing. Yes, when I went through the slides, there might be a challenging story that my dad may have talked about as he was going through, maybe something happened to the storefront. But it could also be, about an amazing meal, or finding some cute store, or finding something to purchase for somebody back home, or all kinds of things that are wonderful as opposed to difficult and suffering. For anyone that has gone on a trip and forced people to watch slides for hours, it may not be about suffering for the person showing the slides. But it's really about achieving a better understanding of the experience. That's why we show the slides. That's why the Israelites wrote it down. Nowadays, thank God, we might not have to sit through slideshows, but anybody who has talked to anyone who's gotten back from a trip that has their cell phone on them, they're just going to show them to them on their phones, right? You go on Facebook, and it's like you see every trip that everyone's taken, right? Your Instagram, and all these places where people show all the trips they've taken, people show all of the stuff that they've done, the good things, and actually mostly the good things on Facebook and Instagram, to tell you the truth. So any number of these social networks allow us to share our journeys. We also have journals. Anyone here keep journal, diary? A couple people. You have journals, you have collages, we have diaries. Any number of ways to write down or to record where you've been on your journey of life. And then there's another thing called ethical wills. We're going to be talking more about this throughout the year. Here's Sonny back there, took the ethical wills class, and took the ethical wills class. Did you write an ethical will? Would you like to come up and read it to us? No, I'm just kidding. But it's a really wonderful exercise to write in a document all the significant things that you believe, or that you've said, or that you've been, or that you've read, and giving those to the next generation, and then in turn to the next generation after that. It's an incredible way to keep your values alive, even after you're not here anymore. So this is the way I like to see the listing of the starting points in the journeys. Look how far we've come, right? Look where we came from. Look at the experiences we had. Look what we've had to endure, and we're still kicking. You know, I think that I want to think of what's happening in this Torah portion as a way of just remembering and giving thanks for what we've experienced. But it also serves us personally, because as we reflect on our life and we think about maybe where things went wrong and where things went right, from the experience, we can figure out what it is in life that we actually do love to do and where we want to spend our time. So the Israelites wrote down their journeys so they could know themselves better, and that we would know what they went through and get to know them better. I hope tonight that it gets you to think a little bit about your journey, about how you record your journey, and that what you want future generations to know about you. Shabbat Shalom. Let's go to page 282 as Bill goes over to the piano and the cantor comes up to the microphone. Aleinu, please rise.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, l'ateit gdula l'sem reishit, she'emunot hashamayim v'yosed haaretz, u'moshav yikaro v'shamayim mima'al, u'shchinat uzo b'govhei meromim, hu Eloheinu einod, v'anachnu korim, u'mishtachavim u'modim, lifnei melech, malachei hamlachim, hakadosh baruch hu 27, v'nemar, v'haya Adonai, v'melech al kol haaretz, v'yom hahu, v'yeh Adonai echad, u'shemo
We turn to page 294, and we say Kaddish Yatom, the mourner's Kaddish. I'd like to know if there's anyone here observing the first week of mourning of Shiva. If you please rise and tell us who you're here to say Kaddish for. Is there anyone observing Shloshim that would like to acknowledge who they're here for? Is there anyone observing a yard site on this Shabbat? Please stand and tell us who you're here to say Kaddish for.
Dr. Terry Turcat and Tom Jeffries.
My gambling partner, Samson.
My cousin Debbie Caverns and my grandmother Sophia White.
My mother. My sister, Sharon.
One more,
Joe Frankie, Stephen Coonan,
If there's someone here in the first year after the death of a loved one that would like to tell us, yes.
Ricardo White.
Thank you. We take all those names into our hearts. Oh, more, yeah.
My dad, Sam.
Yeah, thank you. It's hard to see everyone. Anyone else have their hand up? Those names are in our hearts now. And we also say Kaddish Yatom for those that have no one to say it for them. We also recognize Helene Hale, who passed away last week. And all those that have known to say Kaddish for them, those died in the Holocaust, those lost in COVID, and all those that have died since October 7th. We take them all into our hearts as we say Kaddish Yatom. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shmei rabah, ve'alma divra chiritei ve'amik malchutei, v'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayed l'chol beit Yisrael, ba'agala v'lizman kariv ve'imru amen. Yehei shmei rabah mevorach le'olam u'lamei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitba'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yithalal shmei k'dusha b'rechut. Le'ela minkol berchata v'shirata, tush b'chata v'nechamata, dam miram be'alma be'imru amen. Yehi shalom rabba min shemayim, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael be'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'imrumav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael be'imru amen. May the Lord create harmony on high, bring peace to us, to all Israel, to the whole world. And let us say, Amen. You may be seated. The cantor has a whole bunch of incredible announcements.
This is my first time back in a while, so actually I don't know. But number one, renew your membership, and you'll get all the high holiday information.
But you can't leave unless you renew.
Yes, right. Actually, the high holiday booklet isn't out yet, but you will look forward to seeing it because it will also introduce our theme for next year. So, big things are coming your way. But just, my main announcement is read your highlights. Highlights is our weekly newsletter. It comes out every Tuesday. And then every Thursday, our upcoming services and things that happen between Friday and Sunday are advertised there. The big thing that we put out this week was Joni Mitchell Shabbat. It's actually been rebranded Shabbat in Concert, celebrating Shabbat through the music of Joni Mitchell. So that will be on the Friday after Labor Day this time. We gained a little time since high holidays are later. So September 6th, you can already purchase your tickets and sponsorships. How many people have been to a Welcome Back Shabbat? Stevie Wonder. Way more of you have been here. I don't even know why you're being shy. Stevie Wonder, Elton John, Carole King, Aretha Franklin. God, that makes time really fly.
Beatles.
Beatles was the first one. Beatles, Elton John, I can't remember it. Mamma Mia, it was like Mamma Mia, Billy Joel, and this year it felt appropriate to do Joni Mitchell. So Rabbi Aaron's sermon was clearly gearing up to invite you all to my virtual slideshow sermon next week. Many of you know I was in Israel for 2.5 weeks, and I got back a couple weeks ago and have definitely been taking the time to reflect on a quite incredible trip, which I want to share with you and just give you a sense of what people are talking about in Israel and how they are saying things and how we're aligned, how we're not aligned. The most incredible thing about the trip was really just talking to the waiter, talking to the chef, talking to so many different wonderful people, along with, I probably did 150 different activities while I was there. So please join me and Rabbi Alvin next Friday. I think we'll be in the chapel so that it'll be easier to display photos on the screens. And I look forward to giving you some reflections on this incredible trip that I took to Israel. I'm sure I'm missing some sort of,
Did you take any pictures of storefronts?
Awnings.
Definitely awnings, but
I'm
there's
gonna hear, you don't even know how many are on this.
Also, registration for religious school is open, registration for preschool is open. If you don't know, there's an incredible renovation going on in our playground right now. I don't even know if you can even sneak an eye,
And there's
sneak
nothing
through
to see,
it.
it's all rocky.
Yes, but that means there are good things to come.
You know, next time,
Yeah.
I shouldn't be on the uphill above you. 'cause now
Also,
I'm
like we
taller
can't, that's why I was
than usual.
standing like this.
Yeah, right?
You're tall.
I seem taller than her, right?
Let's
Let's
Just
stand
today.
and do a Shabbat Shalom for our final
Wait,
song.
can we say thank you to Lucas? Thank you to Sarah Heiner, our executive director.
Still stand.
Thank you. Yes, thank you to Bill Schmidt, Billy Schmidt. Also, if you want to join the intergenerational choir and spend time with me and Bill, Nathan, please do. No prior experience is required. Shelly, you want to join the choir? No.
Here we go.
You could just lip sync and smile.
Oh, say shalom, Bimroma, Uya, say shalom aleinu, ve'achol Yisrael, ve'imeru, amen. Oh, say shalom, Bimroma, Uya, say shalom aleinu, ve'achol yoshvei tevel, ve'imeru, amen.
Baruch Atem, Baruch Atem, B'tzeitchem. You are blessed as you came into this space. May you be blessed as you go forward. Shabbat Shalom.
Is there a what?
We got some challah back there. Kenny, you want to grab the challah? Matt, you want to grab the challah back there?
All right, if someone wants to bring the challah to the center, we can do old school. Everybody can connect to each other, and touch it all.
Anyway, it was the right
Baruch atah Adonai